History Month, I think it's important for us to understand the origins of it, why it's necessary, but then how it's being used. So Black History Month came about in the States, from what I understand, directly to address, not to do black people a favour, to address the fact that there had been a deliberate attempt to distort black people's contributions to human civilization and even to American civilization. Well, the same phenomenon exists here. How many people know that 20% of London was black 200 years ago? Hardly anyone. How many people know that African Americans fought on the side of the British in the American Civil War, were given their freedom, came here and integrated? They were all men, so they married into British families, so there's many British people walking around London today with African ancestors that don't know that, right? So even in Britain, the same has happened. How many people know that Africans had, Henry VIII had African musicians at Hampton Court, for example? How many people know that Septimus Severus, the Roman general that was one of the leaders of the Roman conquering of Britain, again, was an African? So even in Britain, again, our contributions here, this idea that we came in the Windrush, you know, and then there was none of us here before then, which is 50 years ago, our grandparents came on a banana boat, and that's the whole story. We buy into it, right, by starting our story then, even as British people. We were already legally British, and I'm sorry to go the long way around, but I think this is important to understand that, in my opinion. We were already legally British when we were in Jamaica, Trinidad, Ghana. We were British citizens in different parts of the Commonwealth that came to the motherland. We didn't suddenly just land here, right? And so we sort of buy into this idea that we were immigrants and we came here 50 years ago. So for all of those reasons, I think this thing called Black History Month was started. Again, not to do black people any favours, but just to try and redress some of the very, very deliberate imbalance. What has happened is, in my opinion, again, it's been used sometimes even by people who happen to be black, but haven't done their homework, to just reinforce slavery. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I respect and love Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but is that the whole of our history on this planet? And so what happens is you got enslaved, then you struggle for freedom, there's your story. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what happens every Black History Month. So actually it becomes dangerous rather than productive. If we're not focusing on black contributions to intellectualism, science, art, architecture, culture, we're not dealing with black history. We're dealing with something. But unless enslavement, the Ma'afa, etc., is placed in the context of a couple millenniums worth of documented history, the oldest astronomical observatory in the world is in a place called Nabta Playa on the border with Egypt and Sudan, 7000 BC. We can go that far back if you want. We can go even further back to the Shango bone, which is tens of thousands of years old, which is the oldest mathematical instrument ever found down in Central Africa. If slavery, colonialism, struggle for civil rights is not placed in that context, then Black History Month might as well go and dust it.